Hey, what's up, everybody? You are listening to the Journey to CEO podcast. I am your host, Lindsay Ray Perry, and welcome to our very first show. Welcome. I am so honored that you would take time out of your day to sit, to run, to walk, to work out, to drive, to chill, to work, and listen to me. It is an honor, and I do not take that lightly. And I am so grateful to be able to hold space with you. So thank you for being here. This is a sacred space where we are all about creating a life we love, embodying wholeness, and owning our experiences by walking in our God-given identity unapologetically. Today's episode is going to be a little bit about you getting to know a little bit more about your girl. I'm not going to be able to tell you my whole story because obviously we all have a journey and we are all complex, multi-layered human beings and souls. And so I can't tell you my whole story in one setting. But if you continue to listen, I may peep out with a little story here and there, right? But for now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about why I started Journey to CEO and what it is. So let's get into it. Okay, so for those of you who do not know me, I am a beloved daughter of God. I'm a woman, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I am a friend, a sister, a businesswoman. I just recently sold a cloud solutions company about a year ago in 2022. So, very excited about that. Kind of walking in a new first generation investor type situation. So that is something that we can get into during the course of the journey of this podcast. But I originally started Journey to CEO to help women entrepreneurs and women in their respective career fields escape the toxic hustle and grind of life and do some inner healing work. And while doing that inner healing work, building a purpose blueprint for their lives. And so that is how I started the mentorship program, but that is not how it all got started, right? Like Journey to CEO mentorship program was actually started from my own pain, my own very rock bottom. I was the team no sleep, grind all week, booked and busy boss, entrepreneur, first class flights across the country, speaking engagements, panel discussions. I sat on a panel with the president of Howard University at one point. I literally went to galas. I've been to the White House a few times. I thought that I was at the height of my career. I thought that I was walking in God's divine purpose and plan for my life. And though I may have been in the right realm or in the right field, there was some significant things and matters of my heart that needed to be addressed. And it wasn't until 2017-ish where I had a nervous breakdown after having 2 miscarriages. I was doing all of this work and it was not materializing in my finances. My marriage was kind of extremely distant. We were in 2 separate different directions. Both were like extreme hustlers, extreme grinders, and not really paying attention to our relationship and what was needed. And so I had reached a breaking point, and I had a nervous breakdown where I collapsed in the middle of the street. The ambulance came to collect my body. They asked me my name and where I lived, and I gave them my childhood address. And I hadn't lived in my childhood home in probably over a decade at this point. So it was like I lost my mind for a moment. And it wasn't until that moment where I thought I was doing something, I thought I was at the height of my career, where I literally, my entire world was turned upside down and I couldn't function in the normal roles that I had been used to functioning in. And it was God sitting me down. And I remember vividly asking God, like, I thought that I was doing this for you. I thought that I was in your will. I thought, God, and it was a lot of what I thought. But God sat me down and let me know that, yes, my child, I have plans for you. I have plans to prosper you in this life. But I have to heal you first, because the reason why you keep running after your career. You're on a hamster wheel going nowhere. You feel like you're pouring more into your work. You're pouring more into relationships than you're receiving. You're giving, you're overextending, over explaining, pleasing everybody around you. You don't know how to say no. Every opportunity you take, and it's not even showing up in your finances. You think you're booked and busy, but you're booked, busy, and broken because you're not doing that for me. You're not doing that for purpose. You're not doing that because of the vision that I have for your life. You're doing that because you are running away from the trauma of your past, from the neglect and the abandonment of your father, from the neglect and abuse and abandonment over the years from other people in your environments. And you think that you're running towards a vision, but the truth is the only vision that you see is running away from what you do not want. And you know that if you do not have a vision for your life, you will inevitably end up running into the very thing that you don't want, because the vision that you actually have is what you don't want. You have to create a vision for your life. And I never realized that I was running after the thing that I did not want. I thought that maybe if I worked more, that I can receive more love in my life, that maybe if I accomplished more, achieved more, then maybe that deep dark hole in my heart would go away. But what I didn't say is the truth is, after every interview, after producing radio shows, after every panel discussion, after every flight, I would go home and literally contemplate ways on how to take my life. I dealt with suicidal ideations. I would sit on top of my high-rise building and think about jumping and saying, if I jumped, who would care? Nobody would even care, because nobody really genuinely cares about me. The only thing they care about is if they can pick my brain. The only thing they care about is what I can do for them. And I had reduced my identity down to what I did, not who God called me. And I was so consumed and busy with the overall consumption of thinking or rumination of the abandonment and neglect of my father that I failed to even recognize or receive God as my father. And it took that nervous breakdown, that rock bottom moment, for God to say, let me be your father. I know that your dad was not who you needed him to be. I know that when you were a 12-year-old little girl and I missed the bus and I needed my daddy to take me and my friend home, and he told me to never come to his home and he slammed the door in our face, I know at that moment that I felt like I didn't have a dad. But the truth is, God is the father that you always wanted. God is the father that I always wanted. And it took that nervous breakdown for him to sit down and show me that, yes, I have plans to prosper you. Yes, I have a future for you. Yes, I call you my masterpiece, but I need for you to not just have it in your head. I need for you to get it in your heart that I am your father and I bless you just because, that there is nothing that you have to do to get the blessing from me, that you don't have to jump through hoops, that who you are is not what you do, that it doesn't matter how many achievements you have, it doesn't matter how many degrees you have, it doesn't matter how many great job opportunities you have, it doesn't matter how many networking events you have. You can't attribute the hole that is in your heart, the deficit of love that you refuse to receive from me. You can't attribute that to not having enough clients. You can't attribute that to needing a marketing strategy. You can't attribute that to maybe I need to go back to school and get another certification. That is not it, my daughter. The problem is you haven't received me as father. You've received me as provider when you needed me to come through for a second. You've received me as a healer when you needed me to heal somebody. You've even received me as a miracle worker, but you have to receive me as father. And I understand that my warped perception of what a dad was is I was attributing, when people say God is father, I literally would attribute that to God being like my dad, the dad that I knew, a human, deeply flawed, deeply misunderstood, had all types of mommy issues, tried his very best, but would always miss the mark. Why? Because he was human. And so I would attribute that neglect. I would attribute that abandonment. I would attribute those inconsistencies that my father had to my heavenly father. And God, it took a nervous breakdown, breakthrough for God to show me that he was nothing like the father that I had on this earth, that he was nothing like the dad that I knew to be inconsistent, that my relationship with my dad was likened to me needing, if I needed him, I had to page him. We would meet him, I would have to go to work with my dad to connect, right? It was never me going to my father's house. I had never stepped foot into my father's house until I was about 24 years old. And my father passed away and transitioned when I was 26. And so my understanding of what a father was literally inconsistent, abandoning, neglectful, narcissistic, selfish. That was my understanding. And so I attribute those inconsistencies and insecurities to God. So it dealt with how I related to God. So I thought that in order to receive love from my father, that what I did mattered, and that the only way that I could receive a blessing from God was about how much work I put in. But God had to get me totally on my face. He had to ruin everything around me, snatch me out of speaking engagements, snatch me out of panel discussions, snatch me out of getting ready to pitch a radio show, snatch me out of flying, snatch me out of my business, just to show me that none of those things mattered if our relationship was not secure. That if I could not see him as father, I would not be able to effectively do the purpose and be who he has called me to be. It would be impossible, because I would believe that he would only be God for the situations that I think I needed him for, and then I can handle the rest. But the truth is, I am nothing without him. I am nothing without God. And with God, all things are possible. And so I know that at the time of my life where I thought I was in the most devastating situation ever, that I was booked, busy, and broken, and then booked and busy went away and I was just broken. But God took those broken pieces and showed me what a benevolent father actually does, how he takes those shattered pieces and places them back together to create this beautiful mosaic of so many different layers, and to create this beautiful vessel that is useful and fit for the master's use. And I would have never gotten to this point as a CEO. I would have never gotten to this point as a wife, as a mother, as a friend, if I did not accept my role as a beloved daughter of God, allowing for him to love me so fiercely, so unconditionally, not predicated on anything that I can do, but only on his love for me. If he could not permeate my heart and show me how much he loved me, which then would actually permeate my heart to the point where I would love him and I could love others. If I did not have that experience, then I would not be standing here with you today. I am a survivor of childhood abuse. I am a survivor of abandonment and neglect. I am a survivor of an ACEs score of 10. I am a survivor of high functioning depression and anxiety and suicidal ideations. I have survived, and I am here to let you know that the journey to CEO is nothing without God. If you can't do it by yourself, and you may trick yourself into believing that you can, but if you think that you can do this by yourself, then good riddance. But I am here to let you know, if you want a life where you don't have to hustle and grind, you don't have to jump through hoops, you don't have to stay in situations and environments that, tolerate you and don't celebrate you. You don't have to do that. You can literally live in a space of grace, a space of peace, a space of joy, and you can live in a space of honor and integrity with grace and with ease, allowing for the Father to journey with you, because the journey to CEO is nothing without him. And so I know I went off. I needed you to feel what I was saying because that is why I started Journey to CEO. That is my passion, that you are not just a business person, and that perhaps the lack of clients or the uneasiness or the pain you may be feeling, maybe something needs to be addressed in your heart. Maybe there is a bitterness in your visionary heart that's clouding your judgment and clouding your ability to see God for who He is and what He can do for you. That there is no cookie cutter program out there for anyone, because we are not cookies. We are the breath of God. He created us. We are creations from the Master, created in His image, which is good, which is masterful, which is beautiful, which is glorious, which is worthy. And so throughout this journey to CEO, I so deeply desire for us to be able to take a look at every single hat we wear, all of the facets and how we show up on this earth. And I want us to see, how am I operating as a daughter in that? How am I overworking? How am I being that booked and busy entrepreneur where I think that I have to do all of this in my own strength? And I have too much pride to say that I'm weak, but the truth is His strength is made perfect in my weakness. So technically, weakness is a very great place to be, because it's where God can show up and do the miraculous in my life, the miraculous in my marriage, the miraculous in my business, the miraculous in my motherhood, the miraculous in my parenting, the miraculous in my friendships. How can I allow for God to be my parent? How can I allow for God to be my father? How can I allow for God to be my mother and nurture me in ways that I may not have been nurtured, to nurture the wounded parts of my heart, to show me the bitterness that I may be carrying that's clouding my vision? Because if I can just surrender to God, then perhaps I can cast my care on Him. I can lay that burden down, and I can go forth in joy and peace and courage, knowing that I am a beloved child of God and that God wants what's best for me, and that best is abundant life. That is what Journey to CEO is about. We are going to dig so deep within these next couple of episodes and in this entire season so that we can get to the core that no matter what is happening around me, no matter how much loss I experience, no matter how many awards I get, that at the end of the day, I am a child of God, deeply loved, deeply honored, and deeply cherished by the Father. And nothing on this earth can change that. And that the blessings of the Lord make it rich, and they add no sorrow to it. And that He wants blessings for me because He loves me. And it's not because I'm a CEO in my business. It's not because I am all that in a bag of chips, which you are, sis, right? It's not because of that. It's because I'm His. And just because He loves me, and He loves you too. Hey fam, y'all all right? Listen, thank you for tuning into the Journey to CEO podcast with me, your girl, Lindsay Ray Perry. I am so grateful that you decided to tune in and listen to our very first show. I know that episode was extremely passionate, but one thing you're going to learn about your girl is I am a very passionate woman. I need you to feel everything that I'm saying. And so if this episode resonated with you, I want you to feel free to rate, comment, review, subscribe, hit me up in my DMs. You can find me on all social media platforms at Lindsay Ray Perry. I really want to hear from you. Your feedback is so important to me. So I hope and pray that you keep coming back. It's only going to get greater and greater. However, until next time, I want you to know that you are a beloved child of God, deeply loved by the Father. You are worthy, you are loved, you are enough. Until next time, bye.